My name is Desmond Miles. I'm a prisoner of war. A war I never knew existed. Waged by two groups I never thought were real. Templars and Assassins. The Animus showed me the truth. The things I've seen, the things I've been. 1,000 years of history flowing through my veins, brought to life by this machine. They're using it. Using me to search for something. Call it the Apple. It's an artifact. One of many so-called pieces of Eden. Templars collect them. It's how they stay in power. And if the Templars get their hands on another one, everything will change. They want to make us all their slaves. When they first brought me here, I was afraid of what would happen if I tried to fight back. Now? Now I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't. But I can't do it alone. And maybe I don't have to. I met someone. Her name is Lucy. I think she's on my side. She's gone now. She's taken away by that bastard Warren Vidic and his Templar masters. I don't know what will happen to her, or what'll happen to me. All I know is I need to get out of here. And I need to do it soon. My name is Desmond Miles, and this is my story.
We have to go.
Lucy, where have you been? Why did they—
Now! Get in.
What's with the blood? Are you okay?
Look, we have maybe 10 minutes, maybe, before they figure out what I've done. If we're not out of here and on the road before then...
Wait, we're leaving?
Desmond, I promise I'll answer all of your questions later. But right now, I need you to just shut up and do what I say. So please, get in the Animus.
All right.
Spingi! Spingi! Di nuovo! Sì, sì, brava! It is a boy.
Oh, my love. Mi dispiace. I was at the bank when they told me. Did I miss it? Am I too late? Give him here.
Giovanni.
Shh, my love. It will be all right. Tu sei un uditore. Sei un combattente. Perciò, combatti. Listen to him. A fine set of lungs.
And what shall we call him, my love?
Ezio. Ezio Auditore da Firenze.
Get up. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna need a second.
There isn't time, Desmond. We have to leave.
We're really getting out of here, huh? What about the cameras?
I rigged them to loop old footage. How do you think I managed to hide all your nighttime snooping from Abstergo?
You're good.
So I've been told. But they're on to us now. We need to hurry. Careful. We need to get to that elevator on the other side of the room. Follow my lead, but keep an eye out for security. I'd rather avoid a fight.
Is it Animuses or Animi? What do you think, Lucy? Lucy? What do they need with all of them?
Desmond, shut the fuck up. please. Fuck. I thought this card would work. It must be on a separate system, and I don't have the code.
Wait. Shit. Come on.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
Let's go. It's always something.
What was that in the Animus? Subject 16? Ezio, Audi something?
I think we've been wrong all along. That's why we need to get out of here. Vidic and the Templars, they're only part of the problem.
What do you mean?
I'll explain when we get there.
Get where?
Get in.
You're joking.
It's for your own protection.
Oh, man.
We're almost there.
Thanks for that. It was great. Shoved in the trunk, bouncing around. Loved
This
it.
way.
So, gonna tell me what's going on now?
There was a reason for the escape, Desmond.
Figures.
We need your help.
For what? Another treasure hunt through time?
Abstergo's gonna replace their Apple of Eden. The map your ancestor found guarantees it. The other assassins, they'll do what they can, where they can, but
What? What is it?
we're losing this war, Desmond. The Templars are too powerful. And every day, more of us die.
I still don't see how I fit into things.
We're going to train you. Turn you into one of us.
What? No. No, you've seen me in action. I'm no good at this, and even if I was, it would take months. Years even.
No. Not with the Animus. Not with the bleeding effect.
But I'm just one guy.
Sometimes, that's all you need.
So that's why you found him. My ancestor. What was his name? Ezio?
If you can follow in his footsteps, you'll learn everything he did, just like he did. Years of training, absorbed in a matter of days.
You broke me out of Abstergo and brought me here just to make me an assassin?
Look, there's more to it than that, but it'll have to wait. Trust me, okay?
All right, I'm in. Tell me what you need.
Really? You're sure?
I thought you'd be happy about this.
Sorry, I'm just a little surprised. I spent the whole ride over here figuring out how I was gonna convince you to do this.
Save it. After what those Templar bastards put me through, I'm ready, willing, and able.
Thank you.
Lucy! You made it! God, it's been so long. 7 years, can you believe it?
Indeed. Welcome back. Ah, so this must be the infamous Subject 17. Desmond Miles, was it?
Who are you?
I'm sorry, where are my manners? I'm Sean Hastings. This is Rebecca Crane.
Nice to meet you, Desmond.
Right, well, it's been lovely chatting, but if you don't mind, Desmond, it's best we get straight to work. Time is precious. Doubly so these days.
We've got everything set up and ready, Lucy. Just say the word and we'll get going.
Here, I brought you something. A parting gift from Abstergo.
Whoa! The memory core! This is amazing. With their data, things are gonna go a lot faster. I'll get to work on merging the code.
Hey, listen. I just wanted to say thank you. And, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know, before. Everything at Abstergo. It was just... I wasn't ready.
It's okay.
No. Going through all that. Knowing that the Templars still exist, what they're planning.
What's done is done, Desmond. You're here now, and that's what matters.
Hey, Desmond. What's up?
Just wondering what your role is in all this.
I take care of Baby. It's my job to keep her up and running.
Baby? You mean the Animus?
Actually, I prefer Animus 2.0, since Baby's twice as awesome as anything you'll find at Abstergo. The Templars might have deeper pockets than us, but they've got no ambition, no passion, no competitive edge. That's why, even with all their resources, anything they can do, I can do better. Faster, too. Anyway, take a seat when you're ready, and we can get started. I just need to make a few more adjustments.
What's all this stuff for?
This stuff, Desmond. Oh, this stuff is nothing special, really, this stuff. It's just the stuff that keeps our entire operation from falling apart, really. It requires a great deal of concentration to keep it all moving, so you'll forgive me if I don't have time to play meet and greet.
Sean's in charge of maintaining our knowledge archives. It's like a digital library. He'll be riding shotgun with me while you're in the Animus. So if you come across anything of note, people, places, events, etc., he'll create database entries you can consult for additional information.
Yeah, it's not just databases, though. I also provide tactical support for the other assassins. You know, Desmond, the ones who are out there, actually doing stuff, risking their lives, little things like that.
So how does this work? Of course.
Deep breath.
Ah! Oh, what are you, a tiny child?
Sean!
Well...
Here we go.
Insieme per la vittoria! Insieme! Silenzio, my friends! Silenzio! Grazie. Do you know what brings us here tonight? Honor. The R.E.D. Pazzi slanders my family's name and forces his own miseries upon us. If we...
Enough of your nonsense, Grullo!
Buonasera, Vienna. We were just talking about you. I'm surprised to see you here. I thought the Pazzi hired others to do their dirty work.
It's your family that cries for guards when there's trouble, Cotardo. Afraid to handle things yourself?
Your sister seemed quite satisfied with the handling I gave her earlier.
Uccidetelo!
Hey! Behind you!
Federico! What are you doing here?
I wanted to see if baby brother had finally learned how to fight.
And?
You have style. But endurance is what counts. Let's see how many of them you can ruin before they get the best of you.
Fall back! Fall back!
Hold on.
What? We've almost won this.
Your lip.
Just a scratch.
Let the doctor decide.
It's not necessary. Besides, I've no money for this doctor of yours.
Wasted it on women and wine, huh?
I'd hardly call it wasted. Lend me some florins then. Or have you done the same?
Search them. There's bound to be something in their pockets. Ben trovato, Doctor.
Fratelli auditori, why am I not surprised? You've made quite a mess of yourself, young man.
It's nothing, really.
You must help him. That pretty face is his only asset.
Fottiti.
There we are. Now get out of here.
Grazie.
This way. Quite a night.
Indeed. I only wish they were all as much fun. Oh, wait. They are.
We should head home, Ezio. Father's sure to be wondering where we've gone.
Yes. And I'd rather avoid a lecture.
Up for a little race, then?
To where?
Roof of that church. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Baby brother still has much to learn.
I almost feel bad about this. Ah, no shame in failure, brother.
Come on, then. This way.
Where are you going?
You'll see. It is a good life we lead, brother.
At best, may it never change.
And may it never change us. All right. Enough of that. We really should head home. Let's go.
Wait.
What? Ezio, let Christina sleep.
There will be time enough for that. Later.
Ah.
The common man looks at an object and fits it into a place in his way of thinking. Those skilled in the old ways, in the ways of the Synergistic, in mysticism, can see an object and identify it by its proper role. But one more layer is needed to be peeled back to achieve understanding. You must identify the object by its role and its truth, and interpret that meaning. When you think of powerful magic, the mind tends to gravitate towards the greatest of the Mages Guild, or the powerful Telvanni wizards, for example. But there are far more mysterious and ancient magical forces at play in Tamriel. The Synergistic Order, an ancient monastic group with a historic legacy of mysticism, are wise and skilled, conducting their sacred duty of guiding the world through change from their otherworldly isle of Artaeum. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Fudge Muppet. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be delving into the esoteric world of the Synergistic Order. The Elven Order are practitioners of the Elder Way, existing to advise those in power through the flow of time, reclusive and influential from their Sapora Tower. This order of old was born from a shift in tradition in the heart of the Somerset Isle. Aldmeri society was changing religion, moving from pure ancestor worship to what we now know as the Aldmeri Pantheon of Aedra. Those Aldmer elders who rejected this new shift left to settle on Artaeum, an isle in the region, forming the Synergistic Order by the 20th year of the First Era. Artaeum is itself as mysterious as its monk-like inhabitants, positioned on the southwest coast of the Somerset Isle, but known to vanish into a pocket realm for centuries at a time. It's a beautiful place, steeped in the unique philosophy and architecture of the Synergics. Vivid green wraps the island, with orchards, lagoons and woodlands punctuating the clearer open pastures. The centerpiece of this picturesque island is the Sapora Tower, headquarters of this order. This stunning tower was partly constructed by the original Synergistic monks, built on the pre-existing foundation of an ancient and unknown origin that predates even the High Elves. Here on this isle, the Synergistic and their old ways were deeply in tune with the manipulation of nature. An example is the Order's special affinity with animals. Their special connection led them to one of their most unique of their achievements, the creation of a breed of intelligent pigs, the Synergistic Domino Pig, able to count to 5 and recognize its own name, and very comfortable around magic. Members of the Order have also been known to conjure Synergistic beasts too, as companions distinguishable from regular animals with unique arcane markings. Cloaked in robes of grey, blue and gold, and later pale yellow, the Synergistic monks have been cited as founders of the magical college of mysticism, which can be described as the ability to alter the nature of magic itself. Spells within the College of Mysticism can be broadly categorized as transport spells, detection spells, absorption spells, and reflection spells, though some also suggest spells that work on magical forces like dispelling and telekinesis also fall under this category. Whether the Order practiced these spells specifically or helped give them form through their study and manipulation of nature is uncertain, but their foundational impact on this school of magic cannot be denied. Despite their specialty in mysticism, you will find that the Synergistic monks usually possess a vast mastery of most magic schools. The core belief behind the Synergists and their mysticism was the ancestor worship that had fallen out of favour by the Second Era in most of Tamriel. Instead of the established pantheon, the Synergists considered both the Aedra and Daedra as simply the spirits of superior men and women whose power and passion granted them great influence in the afterworld, as written by Solaris the Lawmaster. To stay faithful to these old ways, members would perform the rites of Moawita on the second hearth fire and vigils on the first of second seed. Believing the spiritual world was always aware of Mundus, these sacred rituals were performed to empower the healthy spirits and debilitate the unclean ones. With the metaphysical understanding that the primordial force of chaos, Padme, is simply change without any moral assignment, the Synergistic are empowered in their sacred duty of providing grave and faithful counsel to lesser men. After all, as Teherete says, in Mundus, conflict and disparity are what bring change, and change is the most sacred of the 11 forces. Change is the force without focus or origin. It is the duty of the disciplined Synergistic to dilute change where it brings greed, gluttony, sloth, ignorance, prejudice, cruelty, and to encourage change where it brings excellence, beauty, happiness, and enlightenment. Ognithir, or bad change, must be avoided at all costs, which is why such care is put into the guidance of Tamriel by the Order. It is little wonder then that the Synergistic Order is also referred to as the Order of Shj, spelt P-S-J-J-J-J. This purposely unpronounceable word is another ancient name for the primordial force of change, Padme, as mentioned previously. So in a way, they are the Order of Change, with the responsibility of ensuring that the right changes are made for the universe. Knowing both the complexity and power of mysticism and the responsibility to advise and guide, the Synergistic Order is highly selective of those who may join. The Archmage Sarlath once wrote that new members are judged on suitability before being admitted by a complex, ritualized method not understood by the common people. While predominantly made up of Altmer, the Order isn't selective of race, only magical talent, so it seems even a particularly gifted Argonian, Nord or other non-Elven race could potentially be chosen as a member. Two such individuals that met these complex requirements were Vanus Galerian, who would later found the Mages Guild, and Mannimarco, who was responsible for the spread of necromancy in Tamriel. So both the Mages Guild and the Order of the Black Worm were born from ex-students of the Synergistic Order. For more on this, check out our Mannimarco video linked below, but the story set in motion here led to a clash of good and evil that went on to change the course of Tamriel's history quite drastically. Galerian especially used his foundational study with the Synergists to spread magic far and wide in Tamriel via the Mages Guild over the course of his lifetime. He was also instrumental in taking magic from an exclusive thing for those few selected to join orders like the Synergistic to being accessible by any person of Tamriel with the coin and interest to practice. These two are some of the many influential figures in the Elder Scrolls with links to the Order, a list that also includes Sotha Sil. Sotha Sil, member of the Tribunal and wizard mystic god of the Dunmer, has a connection to the Psijic Order that predates many others, spending time on Artaeum during the late First Era. As an honorary member, he both studied the Dwemer creations and refined his own work, while also teaching the Order's members. While there, he also sought use of a power below the Sephora Tower on the Isle of Artaeum, the Dreaming Cavern, kept by the Psijic Order. Here, the Psijics were able to commune with the Daedra, as their beliefs respected them as great spirits, not as innately evil beings, in opposition to the Aedra. From this guarded cavern, Sotha Sil journeyed into oblivion in order to make the Cold Harbor Compact, believed to be a pact that prevents the Daedric princes from manifesting on Nirn. While we do not know what Sotha Sil promised them or threatened the princes with, we do know that the pact bound 8 of the princes under its terms until Sotha Sil's demise in the Third Era. In the year 230 of the Second Era, a trio of Daedric princes, not bound by the Cold Harbor Compact, Clavicus Vile, Mephala, and Nocturnal, conspired with Keturah the Sea-Slowed to take the heart of Transparent Law. This heart is the stone of the Crystal Tower of Somerset, one of the towers that stabilizes Mundus itself. Taking the tower theoretically could grant one omnipresence in the entire Orbis. Mind magic was used by Keturah on the current leader of the Psijic Order, Right Master Lachesis, with the intention of having him steal the heart. Lachesis was a long-standing member of the Order, considered to be one of the most wise mages in history. The Right Master had been fighting the Abyssal Cabal, a group of 4 Sea-Slodes whose goal was to sink the Somerset Isle and add it to their kingdom of Ulvor Kus. But the magic used on him altered his memories such that he thought Keturah was slain. Lachesis then made a deal with Nocturnal after resisting the effects of Keturah's magic, seeking to thwart the machinations of Keturah to hide the heart with the use of a spell in a language usable only by mortals. In secret, he hid the heart within himself as a final act of defiance, unbeknownst to even Nocturnal, losing his memories of this soon after. With his dwindling free will, Lachesis removed Artaeum from Nirn in order to remove himself and the Order from the Cabal's influence, where the Isle remained for 500 years. The trio of Daedric princes alongside the Cabal managed to locate Artaeum in the 583rd year of the Second Era by kidnapping the Oracle of the Weird, opening the way to invade the Psijic Isle. In their attempts to pry the location of the heart from Lachesis, Keturah was slain, and Lachesis' memories slowly came back. Nocturnal betrayed both Mephala and Clavicus Vile in her lust for the power of the heart, prying it from Lachesis and killing him in the process. Before she was able to spread her influence across all realities, the 2 scorned Daedric princes joined the Cold Harbor Compact and aided the Psijic Order and the Vestige in defeating her, returning the heart to the tower. In the wake of this deceit and damage, a mage known as Right Master Valsiren temporarily led the Psijics in place of Lachesis, but Lawmaster Solaris was soon selected as its leader. Previously, Solaris had been instrumental restoring the magical artifact, the Staff of Towers, while also writing the book, The Old Ways, a fundamental text for our understanding of the Psijic Order and their philosophy. With Artaeum back in Nirn, the Psijic Order was once more returned to their passive role in the world, their influence growing and weakening throughout the Third Era depending on the rulers in power. The Psijic Order regularly consulted with emperors of Tamriel until the Septim dynasty of the Third Era. In this time they were formally barred from the Imperial City, reducing their influence significantly. Perhaps Tiber Septim, with his conquering of the Second Aldmeri Dominion, he desired to not have any elven influence that could potentially undo his hard work, hence the ban on the Psijic monks in the Imperial City. While rarely participating in war or political conflict directly, the Psijics of the Third Era demonstrated their destructive power, with some theories suggesting they were manipulated by Queen Patima to do so. Magically conjuring a violent storm, they destroyed a fleet of Pyandanians, leading to the defeat of Orgnum, leader of the Marimar and a regular foe of Somerset. His defeat was so harsh that he never again attacked the province. During these quieter years, the Psijic Order took in very few initiates, with only 17 joining the Order before the 430th year of the Third Era, and another 30 joining before the Oblivion Crisis. It's unknown if the Synergists responded to the Oblivion Crisis or Thalmor takeover of the Somerset Isle. However, it would seem that they are not fond of the Thalmor, working against their interests in the Fourth Era by aiding the College of Winterhold against Eincarno and his ambitions for the Eye of Magnus. Once the Archmage of the College of Winterhold had regained control of the artifact, the Synergistic Order retrieved it for safekeeping and ensuring its power is not abused. Besides their appearance in the 201st year of the Fourth Era, envoys of the Synergistic Order appeared sparingly throughout the preceding centuries, still watching the events of Tamriel. Artaeum, as it tends to do, once again disappeared around 100 years prior to Skyrim's Civil War, coinciding with the disappearance of the Moons, an event called the Void Nights. Artaeum has not been seen since, the Synergists once again operating their mystic magics from the fringes of time and space until it's time to return to Mundus once more. As you can probably tell with their disappearing island, time-stopping powers, and seemingly borderline omnipotent knowledge, power is one thing that the Synergists have in spades. While rarely demonstrated, the scale with which they wield their magic is awe-inspiring. However, not everything they do is some grand feat, with other proficiencies manifesting in more subtle ways. Members have been known to use clairvoyance to observe the goings-on of Tamriel, even while Artaeum is removed, also projecting themselves into the physical world. Telepathy, teleportation, and time-stopping are all abilities that they can use without other mortals being aware. Many of these abilities have limited recorded occurrences, but as masters of the mystic, it makes sense that if anyone was capable of these abilities, it'd be the Synergists. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the story of the Synergistic Order, an ancient mystic group acting as caretakers of change throughout the history of Tamriel, advising leaders, manipulating nature, and learning the truths of the eternal spirits. Who knows the amount of apocalyptic threats that have been prevented in the background by these dedicated monks without receiving an ounce of credit? If you were a talented student of magic in the Elder Scrolls universe and you were offered a spot in the Synergistic Order, would you take it? Even though you would likely become far removed from family and society, dedicating your life to the old ways and the preservation of balance in the universe.
Tell us, is it against our law for us to pay taxes to the Roman Emperor or not?
Show me a silver coin.
Jesus, speak to us.
Whose face and name are these on it?
Caesar!
Then give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.
It's not uncommon when exploring the affluent major cities of Tamriel to find gregarious gentlemen and adventurous ladies seeking out the services of eccentric fortune tellers for a bit of fun or a slight fright. Opening the flap to one of these mystics' tents is an onslaught on the senses. Pungent incense fills the nostrils, and silks of 100 colors glow in the lantern light. By the time the tipsy patrons spy the fortune teller's leering eyes and spindly fingers writhing hypnotically over their crystal ball, they're completely sold on the powerful magics at play. But in reality, these fortune tellers are more performers than they are wizards. If ambiguous statements about one's future, dictated by painted cards and palm readings, truly worked, then these charlatans would be at the Arcane University, honing their talents and exploring the unknown, not telling some drunken sod that he would find love before the new moon. But then again, by its very nature, magic is not so well understood by mortals. The existence of Magicka schools categorizing the various known spells gives the illusion of structure and total understanding. But even Tamriel's best mages cannot hope to ever truly grasp the scope of magic in the mortal realm. No doubt charlatans exist, and they sully the reputation of honest arcane academics. But to ignore the potential of scrying and fortune-telling on Tamriel would be as foolish as declaring yourself an atheist during the Oblivion Crisis. In truth, almost every great story, and almost every great hero to emerge throughout history, has had one key thing in common: prophecy. The Nerevarines' return to Morrowind was forecast long before the hero arrived at the port of Seyda-Neen. So too was the return of Alduin, and the rise of a Dragonborn to defeat him once and for all. The significance of prophecy in this universe can't be understated, and this is crystal clear through the name of the universe alone: the Elder Scrolls. The Elder Scrolls are literally the Aedric prophecies, which simultaneously archive the events of the past and the future. A short yet convoluted excerpt from Septimus Signus's Ruminations attempts to explain the role of the Elder Scrolls on the realm of mortals. He says, "Imagine living beneath the waves with a strong-sighted blessing of most excellent fabric. Holding the fabric over your gills, you would begin to drink its warp and weft. Though the plant matter fibers imbue your soul, the wretched plankton would pollute the cloth until it stank to heavens of prophecy." This quote may have provoked more questions than it answered, but in short, the Elder Scrolls hold the histories of the mortal realm, as they are fragments of creation left over from the dawn times, and their existence proves that magic can show us the future. But can any mortal channel such powers without reading the scrolls and going blind from exposure to such high concentrations of divine energy? Well, we're going to answer that question today. Before we can truly understand how scrying works in Mundus, we need to look at perhaps the most esoteric school of magic, mysticism. Even a master of mysticism magic would struggle to tell you what the school truly encompasses, as the very nature of it revolves around bypassing the limitations of both the physical world and the mortal mind. It is innately spiritual and obscure, leading the more technically minded scholars to steer well clear of the school altogether. If you have a fondness for organization, precision, and strict formulae, then don't attend a mysticism lecture. Spells from this school range from trapping souls to telekinesis, but you'd be surprised just how much magical manipulation goes into lifting that cheese wheel from a distance. Experts describe learning mysticism as embracing a temporary sort of insanity, and if that's true, be careful when lifting that cheese wheel, as you may end up eating it at a feast alongside the mad god Sheogorath himself. Mysticism seems to derive power from its conundrums and paradoxes, as if twisting the mortal mind to its limit is ingrained in the process. It relies on experimentation, which means it is ill-suited to academia, as learning from a textbook is going to be inherently counterproductive. Mysticism mages somehow find dependable patterns within a roiling imbroglio of energy, constantly at odds with the power they're trying to channel. If you haven't guessed already, this school of magic is not the most popular, and it requires a humble, non-competitive mindset, because in the time it would take a master to devise one spell with a consistent trigger and effect, a master of another school could learn dozens of new spells. Rather fittingly, a common theory for the discovery of mysticism is that it came about as the after effects of other spells. In other words, mysticism magic is like the arcane scrap left over from more structured spells. Like cutting shapes from dough, mysticism is the amorphous residue. Though there is no clear evidence of this, just like all speculation on mysticism, to define it is to defeat the purpose of it. This form of magic is as veiled in mystery as the elves who discovered it. To the Sigic monks of Isle Artaeum, mysticism is called the Old Way, and it is intertwined with their religion and their customs. There are layers to understanding all things. The common man looks at an object and fits it into place in his way of thinking. Those skilled in the Old Way, in the way of the Sigic, in mysticism, can see an object and identify it by its proper role. But one more layer is needed to be peeled back to achieve understanding. You must identify the object by its role and its truth and interpret that meaning. In essence, the old way is like looking at tools for their purpose, as opposed to what they literally are. Take a chair, for example. A chair doesn't need to be made from a certain material, nor be a certain color. A chair is a chair because we sit on them. A cup is a cup because we drink from them. But alright, enough of the 200 IQ takes. Sophocil's explanation of the Psijic Order and their way really helps to simplify it. The Psijic Order believe that the spiritual realm, or Aetherius, is always watching the mortal realm, and they worship these spirits as ancestors. Therefore, to mesh in Psijic society, being magically gifted is not enough if you're not capable of embracing the more nebulous, metaphysical aspects of the arcane. Being by the book in some ways is a flaw. Insights into the Psijic way of life are seldom seen by outsiders, but there are sources showing Psijic monks using a large scrying stone or crystal ball. It is alive with a pale arcane aura, and seems to foreshadow Mephalah's scheme to sink the Somerset Isles. This is not the only time the Psijic Order shows a propensity for seeing the future. A Psijic soothsayer named Heliand had been trained as a mystic on the Isle of Artaeum, and he was responsible for seeking out a young Vanus Galerian. Heliand somehow saw the potential of a humble serf's son, and Vanus would go on to found the Mages Guild, becoming one of Tamriel's greatest mages. In the 201st year of the Fourth Era, a representative of the Psijic Order named Nerian visited the last Dragonborn and said, "Hold, mage, and listen well. Know that you have set in motion a chain of events that cannot be stopped. Judgment has not been passed, as you had no way of knowing. Judgment will be passed on your actions to come, and how you deal with the dangers ahead of you. This warning is passed to you because the Psijic Order believes in you. You, mage, and you alone have the potential to prevent disaster. Take great care and know that the Order is watching." And he later goes on to say, "You have done well thus far, but trying times are ahead. It is imperative that you return to your college at once. You will be called on to take swift action, rise to the challenge, and discover what you are capable of. You are on the right path, and you will prevail." Everything about these quotes points to the Psijics having the ability to see the future likely through scrying. They refer to a chain of events yet to happen as if they have a strong idea how they will unfold. They seem certain that no others can rise to the task. They say they are watching, and in this context it seems to be said in a literal sense. And finally, they say with confidence that the last Dragonborn will prevail. This also aligns with the way the Elder Scrolls interpret future events. You see, the information revealed about the future by an Elder Scroll is never absolute, and there is always room for embellishment. This much is unavoidable with mortals. But that is why Elder Scrolls are also known as Aedric prophecies. By definition, prophecies are predictions of future events, not guarantees. So it would seem that there is ample evidence for the existence of scrying and future seeing in Mundus. But surely it's not exclusive to the Psijic Order. Yes, the Psijic Order is populated by the best magical minds Somerset, and to an extent Greater Tamriel has ever seen. But I said earlier that mysticism is a spiritual act, one that relies on elements of randomness, experimentation, and even madness. Surely a form of magic this ambiguous would be discovered by others. Well, it's true. Others have shown signs of grasping the elusive school of mysticism, even some unlikely candidates with no formal training. During the time of Oblivion, the notorious Grey Fox is rumoured to have used a scrying stone called Sevilla's Stone to plan his big heist of an Elder Scroll. Then there's the master of mysticism at the Leyawiin Mages Guild, named Degale. She greets the hero of Kvatch by claiming he has a future at the Mages Guild. She talks of fate as well, and gives the hero a palm reading. But these things could be boiled down to a choice of words and common quackery. The real proof comes from another mage named Agatha. She says Degale suffers from voices in her head and debilitating visions. These were kept under control by a seer's stone. Only her stone was stolen, and without it she would lose her mind to the voices. Once reunited with it, she says to the hero, "Your time has come. The Arcane University needs you, child. Great things will befall you. There will be trials, but you will prevail." Sounds eerily familiar, doesn't it? And that hero would prevail, saving the Mages Guild from Mannimarco once and for all. 2 centuries later in Skyrim, a few others show signs of future sight. Firstly, Sybil Stentor references her scrying, though in her case, it's almost always inaccurate. Her scrying couldn't even detect the powerful necromancies being used to resurrect the Wolf Queen Patima. Apparently the Jarl of Morfall, Idgrod Ravencrone, has visions of her own, and the townsfolk call her a mystic. If Morfall comes under Stormcloak control, Idgrod will say, "It is my hope that that I will one day return to Hjalmarch, but the Divines have not shown this to me. Lastly, Alava the Feeble, an elderly citizen living a quiet life in Whiterun, is said to be a seer. She does it all: tea leaves, palm readings, crystal scrying, and I'm certain every traveller who encounters her writes her off as an old loon. But when she does read the last Dragonborn's future, she predicts the massacre at the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary. In these unlikely candidates, mysticism shows itself to be a rather unique school of magic. Its spiritual nature and reliance on the wielder to open their mind means that it is a form of magic least suited to by-the-book academics. Where there is gold to be made, charlatans will always creep out of the woodwork. But that does not mean all mystics, seers and fortune-tellers are frauds. Nobody knows better than the priests of the Ancestor Moth cult that prophesizing is a tenuous business. Even the legendary Elder Scrolls do not claim to know the absolute truth of what lies in the future, and those who try to interpret these powers are often driven to blindness or madness. No wonder scholars shy away from mysticism. So, if you wish to buy yourself a crystal ball and see the future, if you're ready to abandon logic and embrace a temporary sort of insanity, good luck to you.
Crucify him!
Yes, crucify him!
Hey, Keith, fuck these niggas.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. 901 Shelby Drive, look alive, look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other side. Oh well, fuck them, dawg. We gon' see how hard they ride. I get racks to go outside, and I spit it with the guys. We up on the other side, niggas acting like we tied. I been gone since like July, niggas acting like I died. They won't be expecting shit when Capo go to slide, cause I told them that we put that shit behind us, but I lied. Hey, look who I'm around, man. If I fucked up, I'ma be downtown, man. Full flow down, man. That's if I get caught, man. Push me to the edge, so it really ain't my motherfucking fault, man. I'm not to blame, man. This fucking industry is cutthroat. I'm not the same, man. And I could let you check the tag. Now I'm rocking name brand. I'm only chasing after bags. Now I got a game plan, and I'm out here with the 700 3i5s. Look alive, look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other side. Oh well, fuck them, dawg. We gon' see how hard they ride. I get racks to go outside, and I split it with the guys. We up on the other side, niggas acting like we tied. I been gone since like July, niggas acting like I died. They won't be expecting shit when Capo go to slide, cause I told them that we put that shit behind us, but I
bitch come through, you and you. I'ma get the money, Drizzy get the loot. Pull up with that Draco, play with Drake and I'ma shoot. My weapon be an instrument, I blow you like a flute. Nigga play so he feelin' it. Pull up broad day with the canine shivering. Drop a nigga like he littering. We at the door like we the delivering. He not a plug, he middleman. That nigga brown like cinnamon. I got them round like Sugar Ray Robinson. Shots to the chest, how you gassing for Alma. Spray them, just like for a breeze. Came a long way from sitting in the nosebleed. Now a nigga on the floor talking to the athlete. Mine I'm so close to the gun that I can steal the stash sheet.
901 Shelby Drive, look alive, look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other side. Oh well, fuck them, dawg. We gon' see how hard they ride. I get racks to go outside, and I spit it with the guys. We up on the other side, niggas acting like we tied. I been gone since like July, niggas acting like I died. They won't be expecting shit when Capo go to slide, cause I told them that we put that shit behind us, but I lied.
Wake up. The time has come. Low key. Immortal technique. Harlem motherfucker. Let's make history. From West End to the West Bank, I write righteous rhymes with my right and wrestle the devil with my left hand. Never worked for a Zion, it's never been a yes man. My art is like Rembrandt painting pictures of death camps. The average person is allergic to the words of wisdom. This is for everyone, the Saddam's Kurdish murder victims, and all the pure souls that never had the chance to speak. Truth pumps in my arteries and causes my heart to beat. The soldiers haunted and tortured by guilty memories, who realized too late to reveal their real enemy. It's all dead wrong for every victim of racist persecution, from Auschwitz to Hebron. My words may sting cowards for people that were atomized by the mate in the Twin Towers. Those living through the wars ask me what I do this for. Put the world in its place before it puts you in yours. You can try to avoid us, but it's pointless. You can never avoid the voices of the voiceless. You can try to avoid us, but it's pointless. You can never avoid the voices of the voiceless.
Keep my third eye hidden under my New York fitted. A crazy unmarried man that deserves to be committed. The future is encrypted in my troubled lyrics. Dream that I've been somewhere for weeks and wake up in a couple minutes. Sweat dripping with visions of population control. Thoughts overthrowing my world like the melting of the North Pole. My people are targeted by military crack committees, so I'm bucking at the feds like natives in Rapid City. Reality savage. My words are like a riot in Paris. The voice of the voiceless. That voice is social and balanced, so stand stronger. Sit harder in your mental palace. Blinded inside the kingdom, united to its old habits. Middle passage coming, war chant, African drumming, Gatling gun humming, rapid fire mechanism, reckless living that checks the rhythm of perfectionism. Slave condition while you singing God Save the System.
You can try to avoid us, but it's pointless. You can never avoid the voices of the voiceless. You can try to avoid us, but it's pointless. You can never avoid the voices of the voiceless. Detain my body, but you can't imprison my mind. If it's my time, I'll probably die with my fist in the sky. These are the thoughts of a man who can't escape from his coma. Cries of a young virgin girl who got raped by them soldiers.
Birthing a screaming bastard post-colonial nation, subject to childhood diseases, famine, war, and inflation. Education molded you into your master's image, and you forgot who the fuck you were before the war was
You're
finished.
hearing the ghosts of Nagasaki, you're hearing Hiroshima. Beautiful babies being born with the weirdest features. You might never see me in the chart, but inshallah my seed can see peace in Iraq.
But peace and freedom can never be given. That's historically forbidden, cause only collision is the recipe, changing the course of destiny. So I'm strapping weaponry, cause the government don't give a fuck about protecting me.
Hey, you made it! We're here in the waiting room of the afterlife that Swedenborg called the world of spirits. It doesn't really look like this. It's not actually a room. It's this whole giant plane of existence, but this is actually a pretty good schematic for it. After death, we do stay here for a while. We actually talked about why we're here and what it's like in this episode. But it's all the elements of what it's like and what happens here. Really, it's just preparation for us to make the big choice. I don't know what you've been taught or what ideas you have about these options, but Swedenborg learned that they really are choices. And not just spur-of-the-moment choices, but a choice that is an expression of your deepest loves. But to make any choice, you've got to have a good understanding of the options, right? You've got to know what each of these actually are. So in the next 2 episodes, we're going to go through these doors and see for ourselves. And we're going to start with hell. So, disclaimer, this is going to be a little bit creepy. After all, it's hell, the home of evil, where evil and falsity are actually portrayed visually, and we see the darker tendencies of the human heart reach their conclusion. But it's a journey that we've got to take if we're going to know the real nature of this choice. Are you ready? Well, let's go. Oh, I think that... It's locked. Why would that? I think it's because there are misconceptions about what hell is that are blocking our way, and that actually would make us misinterpret what we saw in there if we did go through.
I've always been told that if you're bad, you're sent to hell.
that if I don't please God, then I'm going to be condemned to hell.
Yeah, and people go to hell, burn in hellfire eternally.
And if burning in hellfire wasn't enough, you're also tortured eternally too.
Wow, you guys really hit the nail on the head with that. Those are some really intense ideas about hell that a lot of people do have, but according to Swedenborg, that's incorrect. It's misleading and causes all kinds of misinformation and fear around the idea of God and life after death. So before we go and explore hell, we've got to clear that up. Are you guys all right with hanging out for a minute while we try to sort that out?
Sure.
Okay, that should be interesting.
Okay, cool. And hopefully this is helpful for all of you too, because we're going to back up and look at the principles of how and why something like a hell could exist, but also take a look at how we could be opening and closing these doors in our own minds all the time. So we're here talking about hell. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Totally. Like, it seems so hard to square with the idea of a loving God.
Yeah, but what if that's just if you don't understand it? Swedenborg offers what I think is the most convincing concept of what we call hell, and it's one that once you grasp the underlying dynamics at play, it may be exactly what you'd expect from a loving God.
Whoa, you think so? It seems like a tall order.
It is, but we've got Swedenborg's accounts to help us make sense of it all, and he gives us so much detail about hell that we can actually use his experiences to travel to hell in this show and see what it's like for ourselves.
It's true, but before we journey into the realm itself, we've really got to address those misconceptions about hell. Otherwise, what we see there could actually make people's fears worse.
Right, and as we heard, there are three main misconceptions. You're condemned there, you burn there, and you suffer there.
Those are certainly the three biggies, I'd say. So how should we go about this?
Well, let's tackle the first one together, and then maybe you take the second one and I'll take the third.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, shake on it.
Okay.
Okay, so first, can you be condemned to hell?
No. No one is sent to hell. Swedenborg explains that we actually do have the choice between heaven and hell. No one goes there against their will. If someone's in hell, they've chosen it willingly, he says.
Who would ever do that?
Yeah, I know. And not only that, but he also says that because of what they love, those people actually can't stand heaven. Swedenborg writes this in Heaven and Hell 548. The Lord is leading every spirit toward himself through angels, every spirit, and through an inflow from heaven. But spirits who are absorbed in evil resist strenuously and virtually tear themselves away from the Lord. They're drawn by their evil, by hell, that is, as though it were a rope. And because they're drawn and want to follow because of their love of evil, it follows that they freely cast themselves into hell.
So this is just like what we talked about in our previous episode, what happens immediately after you die. Everyone's actually drawn to heaven at first because the Lord wants everybody to be in heaven, but we then choose what distance from God is the best for us.
Yes, and that's according to what we love. We feel freest when we get to do what we love, but there are loves, or you'd really have to call them cravings, that are opposed to the love that God is. And so those can't be in the same place spiritually, since everything in the spiritual world is organized by love. So Swedenborg will still use the language sometimes of being cast into hell and that sort of thing. But it's not God, it's what we've chosen to love the most that actually does that casting. He also writes of people being taken up into heaven. And in that case, too, it's what we've chosen to love the most that lifts us up there.
And Swedenborg describes it this way when he's talking about people choosing hell. He says, they are entering voluntarily, and the ones who are doing so out of a burning desire for evil look as though they were diving in head first. This is why it looks as though they were being thrown into hell by divine power.
Wow, he even explains why it looks that way.
But the Lord does not throw anyone into hell. We throw ourselves in. Check this out. Not only while we're living in this world, but after death as well, when we arrive among spirits.
So that means that by the time anyone is choosing hell, they've gotten entirely clear that living out evil intentions is their highest delight. You can't just be half interested and go to hell. You have to be all in. So the nature of the spiritual world itself protects against people doing anything randomly like that. Putting it in somewhat technical terms, Swedenborg writes this: everyone in heaven is focused on what is true for the sake of the good, and everyone in hell, this blanket statement, is focused on what is false for the sake of what is evil. This is because no one is led into heaven until she or he is focused on what is true for the sake of good, and no one is cast into hell until she or he is focused on what is false for the sake of what is evil.
So let me see if I can translate that a bit. So somebody choosing hell, that's the outcome of that person choosing consciously and being totally committed to, with their whole heart, to some kind of lie that justifies something that they want to do that they know hurts people. That has to be your whole MO before you can get clearance for going down.
Yeah, that's a funny way to put it.
So, I mean, it's what you want. So you're not condemned to hell. Instead, what was really happening in that situation is you love what is evil and false. Those are the conditions that make us seek out hell because of our own accord, because we want to. And if you're going to seek out hell, that means you also have to be rejecting what God and what heaven is, which, according to Swedenborg, is thoughtfulness toward other people, a willingness to serve, altruistic actions. So those two don't get along, and you have to pick which one you really like. So we got one down and two to go. Are you ready to tackle the hellfire question?
Sure, I'm on it. Our next misconception to tackle is you burn there. How many pamphlets and cartoons have you seen about hell being a fiery pit? And the Bible's imagery, if you take it too literally, plays into this as well. A key to addressing this misconception is to understand how things appear in the spiritual world. Everything you see there has meaning, and the meaning is a direct result of the feelings and thoughts of the spirits. Fire in general corresponds to love. It can appear in the spiritual world either from a heavenly altruistic origin or a hellish self-focused one. When heavenly, it's because angels are open to love and wisdom from the Lord, and so their faces can seem to have the glow of the sun. When it's hellish, it's a symbol of a passion for being in control from a sense of self-importance. So auras in hell can appear like various kinds of ominous fires. Any burning that appears to be in hell is a reflection of the hearts and minds of individuals there. Simply put, a definition Swedenborg gives is hellfire means all the craving to do evil that flows from love for oneself. When everyone in hell is there because they've made evil the chief joy of their lives, the people burn with hatred there. It's not that they're burning in a fire made to torture them. This is an important nuance. And Swedenborg continues, everyone in hell cherishes hatred toward others in her or his heart and bursts out into savagery whenever there's the strength to do so. These acts of savagery and torture are what are meant by hellfire because they are the result of their obsessions. But people in hell don't necessarily have the experience of a fire around them. It might look this way only when the light of heaven flows in. And the temperature feels fine to them, except when the heat of heaven flows in. The light of heaven reveals what the love there is actually like. The thing to understand is that this appearance is not coming from the outside in, it's coming from the inside out. So you don't burn in hell, you insist on acting from evil desires. And this looks and can feel like fire in the light and heat of heaven. But what happens when you have a gathering of people in a part of the spiritual world who are all determined to act on evil desires? And now we've stepped into the territory of the third misconception, the torment in hell. So let's go to Curtis to dig into just what Swedenborg means by torment and punishment as an element of hellfire.
So if you accept what we've put forward so far, we've established that you're not cast into hell, and the only thing that's burning in hell is the passion to act on cravings. But are people punished or tortured in hell?
I can't make it totally benign and say that in Swedenborg's accounts, everyone in hell is fine and it only looks like they're making each other miserable when the light of heaven shines in. No, but actually that wouldn't make sense. And what we're here to show you is how hell actually does make sense. Think about it. As we've already asserted, hell is full of the craving to do evil. So people are going to be trying and sometimes succeeding to do evil to each other, since wanting to do evil to people is why they chose hell in the first place. But it's really the individuals who have the controls. The choices they make about what to do dial up or down the negative things that they experience. In this divinely organized, highly regulated environment, the people there are allowed to indulge their pleasures or resist acting them out, and this lets them control their own torment in a sense. Understanding the context of the suffering in hell, we can clarify the misconception of you suffer there. Building on what we already covered, the meaning of the suffering in hell that we've got to understand is that it is the result of the people there being allowed to do what they love within certain limitations. The suffering or torment that occurs in hell is the product of the hatred in the hearts of the people there, and it only occurs when somebody crosses a line. This is also part of the appearance of fire there. Swedenborg writes, that same fire also means the kind of torment that occurs in the hells. This is because the impulses that arise from that love are urges to wound people who do not offer respect and deference and reverence to the extent that rage takes charge. And the hatred and vengefulness that come from rage, people are driven to attack others viciously. And this is a bit gritty, but if we're looking at the home and the culmination of evil, it's going to match the levels of darkness that we see on Earth play out under the right conditions too. You think about it, everybody in hell wants to be the greatest and burns with hatred against everybody else, which is a genuinely miserable scenario. We know that things like this happen on Earth under the right conditions. However, you'd think that at least in the spiritual world, divine love would be able to find some kind of workaround to mitigate this endless suffering that would result from this pattern, and it has. God and the angels are constantly at work tempering and softening the drives in hell to do evil. Swedenborg writes, the angels have the hells under their control and keep all things there in check, and this ability comes from the Lord. Otherwise, the torments would be perpetual and their state extremely deplorable due to the horrendous condition in which they are. So hell is this place that the Lord allows people to be who can't tolerate the atmosphere of mutual love that's dominant in heaven, but the Lord loves every single person in hell. And so he works within the bounds of freedom to govern what would otherwise be total chaos. There's actually several layers of governing or management that each work in their own way. And Swedenborg explains.
The hells overall are governed by the general flow of divine goodness and divine truth coming towards them from the heavens, which also restrains and keeps in check the general striving to flow outward from the hells. They are also governed by the specific flow coming towards them from each individual heaven and community of heaven. Specifically, the hells are governed by means of angels who are given the ability to look into the hells and check the insanities and riots there. Sometimes angels are sent there, and their very presence brings matters under control. In general, though, all the people in the hells are governed by their fears, some by fears sown and still in place from the world. However, since these fears are not adequate and gradually weaken, they are governed through fears of punishment, which are the primary means of preventing them from doing evil.
So God doesn't punish anybody, but people in hell burn with a desire to punish each other. In the spiritual world, whatever you put out comes back at you. It's spiritual law, which we did talk about in our show, Is the Law of Attraction Real? Evil spirits are allowed to attack someone who has invited that punishment through their own drives and deeds. In that moment, the attackers are acting as the agents of this spiritual law, and in this way, the Lord manages to use the evil drives of people in hell to help govern it overall. The fear of punishment is the only thing that can tame and deter the constant violence that would be happening otherwise. So divine providence is carefully balancing all of this to minimize the suffering that happens. And there's another tricky workaround that the Lord uses to lessen the torment of people that are in hell. It's the same thing that makes the joy of heaven what it is: usefulness. The Lord provides ways for the people in hell to have the opportunity to be useful, or to do some kind of work that serves the larger whole. When they do this work, it relieves their suffering, but since being useful is actually opposed to what they love, they can't stand it for very long, and so go back to life as they choose it. Swedenborg writes it this way: "The Lord never sends anyone to hell, but wants to lead everyone out. Still less does he inflict pain. Instead, since evil spirits actually run to get there, the Lord turns all the punishment and torment to good and puts it to some use. No penalty can ever exist unless the Lord has some purpose in mind for it, because the Lord's kingdom is a realm of purpose and usefulness. But the purposes that hellish spirits can serve are ignominious. When performing those services, they are not in as much pain, but when they cease to be useful, they are returned to hell." So going back to our final misconception, you suffer there. Yes, people do suffer, but this doesn't really capture the essence of what's really going on. Evil punishes itself, and God relieves suffering. So in summary, anyone in hell loves what is evil and false, insists on acting on their cravings, and when they do, they inevitably experience some suffering. But God is always at work to relieve suffering and mitigates, through spiritual laws, what goes on there.
So, what do you guys think?
That was really intense, but I can see some of what you're saying. I'm sad that anyone would choose hell, but it does help to know that everyone there is there because it's where they can act out what they crave within certain limitations.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me that hellfire is a picture of the hatred that they burn with. I mean, we use that kind of phrasing in this world. You burn with rage and hatred, but you're not actually burning.
The torment there is tough to swallow, but I have to admit I get it. They're in control of it, and they bring it upon themselves, and I'm happy to know that the Lord is there tempering the suffering that goes on overall.
Yeah, Swedenborg actually writes that angels would gladly trade places with anyone in hell, but when you're in hell, when you're in that mindset, you don't want to leave it. Swedenborg actually has this account that he recorded where he's talking to a group of spirits from hell, and they're trying to sell him on the hellish lifestyle of revenge and ego versus the heavenly one, saying that hell is a better place to be. So it's fascinating that the divine allows everybody the space to live the kind of life that they want to live within certain limitations, like the law of retaliation that we were looking at before. So if this cleared it up for them, hopefully it's helped you too. With this perspective in our minds, let's try this door to go visit hell and see what these principles look like there. Okay, I'm going in.
Curtis is out exploring the world of spirits, but before we go to him, I'm going to give you a little overview of the kinds of things we'll be seeing out there. The thing to understand about the spiritual world is that everything you see here has meaning. Everything here is an expression in some way of the thoughts and feelings of the spirits here, individually, but also on a collective scale. To get you oriented, the heavens are here on the higher ground, and the world of spirits is this middle area. And Swedenborg learned that beneath both are the hells. Now, the heavens aren't actually visible to spirits in the world of spirits unless their inner sight has been opened. Instead, they often just appear like gleaming white clouds. This is because heaven's angels are in a deeper state with regard to wisdom. What you see in the spiritual world has everything to do with what you understand. So heaven is beyond the sight of people in the world of spirits unless and until their minds are opened at that inner level. Right now, Curtis is in the world of spirits here. People on this level are in this phase of gradually being let into their inner natures and becoming clear about what they really love. They can all see each other because of their similar state, but when they are nearing the point of entering either heaven or hell, the differences in their states are getting more and more pronounced. So evil spirits actually stop being able to see the good spirits. At this point, the good spirits start to see paths leading them to heaven. But how do those en route to hell get there? Like I said, the hells are underneath everything there. Swedenborg wrote, it's as if all of heaven and the world of spirits are hollowed out with one continuous hell under them. But that doesn't mean hell is the same everywhere. It's actually different depending on the particular kinds of evil the spirits there are attached to. Swedenborg explains, there is an infinite variety to everything evil, just as there is to everything good. People do not grasp this if they have only simplistic concepts of particular evils like contempt, hostility, hatred, vengefulness, deceit, and the like. But they should realize that each of these contains so many distinctive forms, each of which also contains distinctive or particular forms, that a whole volume would not be adequate to list them. Now, it might be a little unnerving to think that the hells are essentially everywhere below the world of spirits, but there are only certain entry points, which Swedenborg called gates, and the opening and closing of these is very highly regulated. Also, it's worth pointing out, they are only connected to the world of spirits, and none connect to heaven. Swedenborg writes how they aren't even noticeable unless they open. Hey, based on our map, it looks like Curtis is very near one. Let's go to his feed and see what he's seeing.
Hey Curtis, how's it going?
So you're saying that the entrances to hell are everywhere? And they could even be like any of these things I'm seeing in the world of spirits?
Yeah. Swedenborg explains how they open and can be seen only when an evil spirit is entering one. But you have that Light of Heaven flashlight, right?
You mean the Kylie Lux Magna ES2000 custom made by Swedenborg Foundation Labs? I sure do.
That's the one. I think you can use that to reveal where the gates are. Try shining it on things and see what you find.
Okay, let's try this. Whoa, do you see that? It looks like soot coming up from a chimney.
Interesting. Soot or ash from a fire means the distortions of truth that come from self-centeredness.
Fascinating. Okay, what else? Ah! I didn't even shine my light on that one. What was that?
My guess is that's a gate opening for an evil spirit to enter. Watch out and see if someone is coming.
Oh, I'm so curious. Whoa! Chelsea, it looked like his face was made of teeth. Is that possible?
Oh, that must be a correspondence. The face represents a person's internal state, especially the quality of their faith and charity, and teeth are made of bone. Bone is usually a symbol of truth, or its opposite, falsity. To be nothing but teeth is symbolic of a kind of lifelessness, lacking love for others. Swedenborg wrote of seeing people with faces like that, and he learned that they particularly enjoy depriving people of any understanding of goodness and truth, while they themselves have no principles of life.
All evil spirits don't look that way, do they?
No, they can all look very different. Swedenborg described seeing all kinds of faces. Some he saw looked like corpses, some like fiery torches, some have diseased-looking faces. In many cases, they are even just faceless, or in place of a face, there is something hairy or bony. He writes, their bodies are equally misshapen, and their speech seems to embody wrath or hatred or vengeance, since all their articulation comes from their false perception, and all the tone comes from their evil intent. In a word, they are all images of their hell.
Fascinating. Doesn't that freak them out?
Well, actually, they don't even experience it this way. Swedenborg explains that hellish spirits only look this way in heaven's light. From mercy, the Lord makes it so that they look human to each other. Heaven's light makes things appear as they really are. This is partly why hellish spirits avoid heaven's light. They prefer the way things look in hell without it. Then they can live in the fantasies of their distorted thinking. If any light of heaven shines in, then those fantasies suddenly disappear, and instead, the quality of the evil they live in is revealed. Swedenborg explains, seen in any of heaven's light, all the spirits in the hells appear in the form of their own evil. Each one is in fact an image of her or his evil. Since for each individual, the inner and outer natures are acting as a unit, with the deeper elements presenting themselves to view in the outer ones, in the face, the body, the speech, and the behavior. So you can tell what they are like by looking at them. In general, they are forms of contempt for others, threats against people who do not revere them. They are forms of various shadings of hatred, or various forms of vengefulness. Savagery and cruelty show through from within.
Wow, that's amazing. So people in hell really look monstrous, but the Lord lets them live in a kind of normalcy. To them,
They seem to be living a normal kind of life. They don't look like monsters, and the temperature even feels decent to them. Even though, in the light of heaven, you can see how abnormal their condition is. So I could go into this hell and see that?
Yeah, I think for the purpose of educating people about it, you'll be allowed to enter.
It really does look pretty normal in here. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, probably not on the best places to live list. Okay, a skeleton. Now, if I'm catching on here, a skeleton would mean something less than human. And what is human is really the marriage of love and wisdom, so have the people here somehow rejected that in their life?
Exactly. In one of Swedenborg's spiritual experiences, he describes people becoming skeleton-like when they've thoroughly rejected marriage love.
What about the other hells? I'm sure they don't all look the same.
That's right. Every community in hell is unique. Swedenborg described seeing ones that looked like the dens of wild animals, or like caverns. Some looked like crypts or mines going deep into the earth. Some he saw looked like dark forests with wild beasts, and others like desert spaces with cliffs. Again, all a reflection of the different harmful desires of the spirits there.
Well, I think I've had enough. It's time to leave this place and head back.
Okay, be safe out there.
So we're getting near the end of the show, but I gotta say, it's intense to witness what is in hell. Like, I get it, it's objectively amazing to hear about how God manages it, but I feel like I wish there was something I could do. Like, how can I slow it down or somehow make less of this whole hell thing, you know?
I hear you. And actually, I think there is something that you can do, and it turns out that this world is just the right place to do it in.
Really? Okay, so what do you mean?
Well, you can resist fueling hell, and I mean everybody, right now by resisting hell's influence on your heart and mind.
All right, that sounds good. So how would that work?
Well, it's amazing, but if you're doing the work in your own life, that actually helps bit by bit to free the human race from hell. And it even helps those who are in hell, because you're not feeding them the destructive feelings that they're addicted to. So like with all addictive substances, getting that rush that they get from hatred or greed or revenge may feel good to them in the moment, but it actually brings more suffering and chaos overall. So reducing those negative spiritual substances can even bring more peace to hell.
Oh, I never would have thought about it like that. So I can't change the choices people in hell have made, but I can give less destructive fuel to hell to tamp things down there, and I could give hell less access to people in the world through me.
Yes, and a side benefit is that by doing that, you're actually already joining the team that's mitigating the suffering in hell, even now while you're in this world. So you're choosing to be part of the solution, and that really helps.
You're talking about linking up with the angels.
That's
right, because it's not that it's the angels against hell, and who's going to win. The angels are actually working all the time to make hell better for the people there. So by getting myself in harmony with their efforts, I can be contributing to that solution. Okay, thanks for the pep talk. I needed that. So it feels good to sort of recenter myself in some kind of positive perspective that something can be done. All right, so I think I'm ready to return now.
I'm so glad.
All right, we did it. Hell is a pretty intense place, but I hope the principles that we laid out for you give you helpful context for understanding this model of how hell works, what it's really like, and why anyone would choose to be there. And what I feel like is most important, how we can help relieve the hell stuff that's going on right now. So we've explored this part of the afterlife, but there's another door. What if you don't choose selfishness? What if we choose to resist our inclinations to greed or hostility or callousness? When we do, we're opening our inner self to heaven. We're connecting to love and altruism and truth. But what's it like to actually live there? Next episode, we'll take a look around.
We want the ideas and insights we cover to be available for free to anyone, anytime they need them. That's why we offer Swedenborg's books as free downloads on Swedenborg.com, and we share all the content on our Off the Left Eye YouTube channel with no paywall or ads. The only way to keep this up, though, is for those of you who like what we're doing and feel comfortable giving, to give.
Yeah, you can be the greatest, you can be the best, you can be the King Kong banging on your chest.
You could beat the world, you could beat the war. You can talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. You can move a mountain, you can break rocks.
You could be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you go find yourself
Standing in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
Cause you burn with the burst flame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can go the distance, you can run the mile. You can walk straight through hell with a smile.
You could be the hero, you could get the gold. Breaking all the records they thought never could be broke.
Yeah, do it for your people, do it for your pride. Are you ever gonna know if you never even try?
Do it for your country, do it for your name. Cause there's gonna be a day when you're
standing in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
Cause you burn with the burst flame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame.
Be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion.
In the walls of the Hall of Fame. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions, be truth seekers. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions. Standing in the Hall of Fame. And the world's gonna know your name. Cause you burn with the burst flame. And the world's gonna know your name. You'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can be the greatest, you can be the best. You can be the King Kong hanging on your chest.
You can be a general, you can beat the war. You can talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. You can move a mountain, you can break rocks.
You could be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you can find yourself
Standing in the Hall of Fame.
There's only about 10 minutes until I
Need
get...
all of my equipment ready to go before they do. Desmond!
Yeah.
All right, Sean, I need you and Rebecca to get everything in here packed up and loaded into the truck. You and I'll deal with the Templars.
What, they're here?
It was only a matter of time before they discovered us. To be honest, I'm surprised it took them as long as it did.
Let's go.
Mr. Miles, this is an unexpectedly pleasant turn of events. And here I thought I'd have to waste more men on it. Kind of you to save me the trouble.
What do you want, Finnick?
For you to come home. We miss you terribly. There's still so much work for us to do together.
It's not happening, Warren.
You continue to disappoint in every conceivable way, Miss Stillman. I saved your life once. Do you remember? And this is how you repay me?
You saved me so you could keep experimenting on people, destroying their lives. And for what?
This tired argument again. As I recall, you were there, at my side, every step of the way. Their blood is on your hands just as much as mine.
You need to stop it.
I'm on it.
Uh-oh, Doc. Looks like it's just you and me now.
Enjoy your victory, Mr. Miles. Temporary as it is.
Desmond, we have to go!